Hi, I was specifically asked if I could make a video on this topic, and I said yes because it is sexual assault is unfortunately extremely frequent. It should never happen, never happen. There is nothing about this situation that should make it happen. You are never at fault, ever. So why does sexual trauma kind of really affect someone's libido? There's a number of reasons. Sex inside of a good, loving relationship is supposed to be a powerful bonding experience. You have a huge dopamine kick. You are allowing yourself to be in a very vulnerable situation. And so, between the vulnerability and the dopamine kick, it brings you together in a powerful way so that you bond. Now, what happens though is that when you make memories, even good memories, you don't just make a memory of the narrative of what happened. It's not just the facts of what happened. You're also storing emotional memories and as well as sensory input memories. I think we can all attest to smelling something and going, oh, that reminds me of Christmas, or oh, that reminds me of my grandma. Well, the same thing happens during a sexual assault. And so when we have these, so when either any of them, either there's an emotion that's similar, or you remember the narrative, or you have a sensory input that's similar to something that happened during the trauma, then it can bring back all of the above. Now, sex in a loving relationship, what happens is you come together and you start signaling to each other that this is something you want to do. And you start creating a bubble of safety because it is a very vulnerable act. Usually you take your clothing off, which even of itself makes you vulnerable. And so this is what foreplay is all about. It's about making each other feel like I can trust you and you can trust me, and I want the best for you and I know that you want the best for me. And it's in that setting that the best sex is had. And here's a little side off. If you're finding that your spouse isn't receptive, it might be that you need to start the process of, I love you, you can trust me, I'm going to take care of you. It starts, and it's like all the time. So what happens is that if someone has been violated, then even the touch that should be a way of bonding, it's now, instead of a touch bringing up good thoughts of, oh, okay, we're about to do something wonderful. It's like that instantly triggers memories to the trauma. And so there's like a shutting down because that was so bad, that can't happen again. And so it's self-protective. And it can be so bad that women can develop a condition where if the vaginal opening is touched at all, it clamps shut so hard that it makes sex almost impossible. And even using a tampon or inserting a finger can be very problematic. Now, I'll tell you though that condition, it can be really helped by if you go to see a pelvic health physiotherapist. So that's just something to keep in mind if that's something that you struggle with. So how can we help people who find themselves in this? Well, understanding is going to go a long way in patience. So if your partner has been through a sexual trauma, what I would highly recommend is two things. One, make it your goal to become an expert at reading body tension. So if you touch them and you feel a tightening or a tensioning, you back off. If the other part is to listen to them. Does this feel good? And if they're like, I can do this position, but I can't do that position. Okay. Because sex isn't just about penetration either. A fulfilling sexual experience, it's just about coming together as two people and enjoying each other's bodies. So if this isn't enjoyed, is this enjoyed? Can we do this? Now here's where I want to be very careful with what I say. Number one, if you have been through a sexual trauma, I highly, I can't emphasize this enough, that you work through this with a trauma-informed counselor. And as someone who has been to many counselors in the past, if the first one is not a personality fix, or the things they say, you're like, are you crazy? What are you saying? That's horrible. you find another one. Because sometimes it can take going to see a few before you go, okay, this person gets me, this person understands, and I feel safe with them. So that's a big one. And here's the reason why finding a therapist is important. The way to overcome an anxiety is to have enough experiences that are similar to it, that are pleasant, that it kind of takes back that wiring. You can think of all the connections in the brains as like a tree, plant, or plants, like and the more you think of something, every time you think of something, you strengthen that pathway. That's why when babies are first born and they're like going all over the place, that's because they have too many pathways. So then if they're like, oh, I want to touch this, and every time they manage to do it properly, it strengthens the one pathway and the rest of them die out. So in the same way, like if there is a sexual assault, that pathway is immediately put down so strong. It's very hard to get it to die off. But as you have similar but pleasant experiences, then it will diminish that pathway, and it will strengthen the ones that say, okay, this tactile sensation actually means love, not danger and trauma and horror. So the other suggestion I would make is to really bring back the fun into sex. Never, and I mean never, tease someone about their fears or insecurities surrounding sex, ever. I can promise you that will immediately take the trust back a number of steps. Someone has to be very able to say anything that they're not comfortable with. So never ever tease someone. However, bring back the playfulness. There's a difference between teasing and playfulness, because if we make sex serious, then it's serious. So yeah, be playful, be inquisitive, ask, is this okay? Is this okay? How much is this good for you? I want this to be good for you. And really notice tensions in the body. Even if it's tense, then you just go around it and try something different. And I want to emphasize this, if you have gone through a sexual assault, there is nothing about that is your fault. Nothing. It doesn't matter if you shouldn't have been there, if you had too much to drink, if you shouldn't have worn that thing, none of that. This is 100% on them. They took something from you that they should not have. And there's a lot of time people feel guilt because why didn't I fight back? Why did I freeze? Why did I laugh? That is just how the body responds. And we have no control over that. And quite frankly, you shouldn't have had to have fought back. It shouldn't have happened in the first place. And like, it can even be that someone will orgasm during an assault, and does not in any way mean that you enjoyed it. It doesn't mean you consented. It just means that a certain body part was rubbed and there was a physiological response, because that's what the body part does. It was not supposed to happen. So I hope that having this conversation and just starting the process of chatting with your partner about going slow, but what feels okay and what doesn't feel okay, and encouraging you to seek a trauma-informed therapist helps. There is help. You don't have to suffer alone, and because this is far more common than I think anyone actually realizes, you don't have to suffer in silence.